Alpha Leader was left for dead, unaware, but a little girl climbed to save him. The full moon rose high above the misty mountains, casting a pale silver light across the forest. Every tree seemed taller, darker, and older under its glow, their shadows twisting like restless spirits. In the heart of this ancient forest, the Alpha Leader moved with strength and pride. He was the strongest of his clan, a wolf kin whose presence demanded respect. Yet tonight, the forest did not welcome him. He had been hunting, as he always did under the full moon, seeking prey and testing his skill. But tonight was different. The air felt heavier, the wind colder, carrying whispers of betrayal. Even the wolves that ran beside him hesitated, ears flattened, noses twitching. Something in the forest warned him, but he ignored it. He had survived countless battles, endured treachery, and faced enemies beyond imagination. What danger could this night possibly hold? Then, without warning, the attack came. Back from behind trees, figures masked and armed, striking with precision. The Alpha fought fiercely, his claws flashing in the moonlight, his growls echoing through the woods. But the numbers were too many, and betrayal cut deeper than steel. A familiar face, someone he had trusted, struck him from behind. Pain exploded across his body. He fell to the ground, every breath a battle, every heartbeat a scream against the dark. He tried to rise, tried to roar, but his body refused him. The forest seemed to close in around him. The whispers grew louder, mocking, reminding him of every wrong choice he had ever made, every friend he had ever lost. And then, silence. He was left for dead. But the forest was not as empty as it seemed. A small, fragile figure watched from the shadows. A little girl, no older than 10, with hair the color of night and eyes that shimmered strangely in the moonlight. She had been wandering the forest alone, drawn by the sound of battle and pain. Fear clenched her heart, but curiosity and something deeper she could not name pushed her forward. The Alpha Leader did not notice her at first. His pride, even in weakness, made him blind to anyone smaller than himself. He cursed the world and the traitors who had left him here. Yet he could feel her presence, faint and quiet, like a heartbeat in the shadows. The girl climbed over roots and rocks, her small hands gripping the rough bark of the trees, moving carefully but determinedly. Finally, she reached him. Her breath came in sharp, nervous gasps, but she did not falter. She knelt beside him, her tiny hands brushing away the dirt and blood from his face. "Sir," she whispered. "You cannot stay here. You must come with me." The Alpha blinked, confusion and irritation flaring. He tried to push her away, but his arms barely obeyed. Brasp through his tongue and his pride roared inside him, demanding that he reject help, that he remain untouchable even in pain. Yet the girl did not retreat. Her gaze, steady and unwavering, held him. Why do you help me?" he asked, his voice rough, barely more than a growl. The girl's eyes held a strange wisdom beyond her years. "Because no one should die alone. Not here. Not like this." He tried to argue, tried to assert his strength, but he had no energy. Pain weighed him down like chains of iron. And then, almost imperceptibly, something inside him softened. A flicker of trust. She did not speak again. Instead, she worked quietly, moving him with care, wrapping his wounds in cloth she had found in her small satchel. The forest seemed to watch them, silent and tense. Every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves sounded louder than usual, yet the girl did not falter. Hours passed, though the night seemed endless. The Alpha leader's strength slowly returned, enough to keep him alive, enough to fight another day. And yet he could not stand. He was tethered to the forest, to the shadows that had claimed him, and perhaps to the little girl who refused to leave. "Why did you climb the cliff?" he finally asked, voice hoarse. "Because someone had to. I thought you could be saved." Her words struck something deep inside him. The Alpha had always been alone, always relied only on himself. To be saved by someone so small, so fragile, yet so fearless, was a humbling experience. He felt a strange pull toward her, an unfamiliar warmth in the cold night. The forest stirred around them. Shadows twisted in unnatural patterns, forming shapes that seemed almost human. The girl looked up, eyes wide, and the Alpha felt it too, an energy dark and commanding, moving among the trees. A voice echoed, soft yet chilling. "His life is no longer yours to keep." The Alpha growled low in his throat, muscles tensing despite weakness. "Who's there?" he demanded. But the forest only whispered back. The girl's hands trembled slightly, but she did not flee. Instead, she placed her small hand over his chest. A faint glow emanated from her eyes, pulsing like the beat of a heart. The shadows recoiled, wavering as if unsure how to respond. "Don't be afraid," she said. "I can help him." "I can help you, too, maybe." The Alpha's brows furrowed, a mixture of anger, pride, and confusion flashing across his face. "Help me? Who? What are you?" "I'm just a girl," she said softly. "But I know things. Things about the forest, and about you." "You're not dead. Not yet." "But you will be, if I don't help." Her words carried truth. The Alpha realized in a chilling way that his survival was no longer his own decision. The curse that clung to his bloodline, the curse that demanded vengeance and punished betrayal, was stirring. Every choice he had ever made, every life he had taken or spared seemed to converge here, in this misty forest, in this quiet night, before this little girl. The Alpha tried to stand, to assert control, but the pain struck again and he sank to the forest floor. The girl did not waver. She lifted him gently, using all her small strength, guiding him toward the cliffs. Pride struggled against her, against the weakness that pinned him to the ground, yet he could not stop himself from feeling grateful, vulnerable, yet alive. Night gave way to early dawn, pale light seeping through the trees, casting silver and gold across their path. They moved, slowly, carefully, but every step was progress. For the first time in years, the Alpha allowed himself to feel not only pain and anger, but something softer, hope. And, strangely, trust. By the time they reached a high ledge overlooking the valley, the forest seemed quieter, as if it too were holding its breath. The girl knelt beside him, her eyes searching his. "You'll live," she said firmly, round. "I won't let anything happen to you. Not now." He wanted to argue, to insist that he did not need saving, that he had survived worse than this. But words failed him. His chest rose and fell with effort, and for the first time he let silence speak for him. His amber eyes met hers, and in that moment a bond was forged, not of friendship, not yet of trust, but something fragile, something raw and unbroken. Then the forest shifted. A chill wind blew from nowhere, carrying a whisper of warning. Something was coming, something ancient, powerful, and hungry. The alpha's instincts flared, every muscle coiling. The girl looked up, eyes wide, fear and determination mixing in her gaze. "We're not alone," she said softly. The alpha's claws flexed, teeth bared in a low snarl, and the forest seemed to lean in, shadows stretching and twisting unnaturally. And from the mist a figure emerged, a ghostly shape, regal and terrifying, moving with quiet authority. Its eyes burned with the cold light of judgment. The girl gripped the alpha's arm, but she did not flee. Instead, she whispered, "You must face this. Together."
The alpha's heart pounded, his pride and fear battling with a strange warmth for the girl beside him.
He realized, with a sudden clarity, that survival alone was not enough. To endure, he needed her. And perhaps more than that, he needed to confront what had been waiting for him in the shadows for years. The figure stepped closer, voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "The life you cling to is no longer yours," it said. The alpha growled, and in that moment something in him shifted. Pain, fear, and pride collided, forging a fragile but unbroken resolve. "Des, I am not finished," he said, voice trembling with effort but strong. "Not yet." The girl's hand squeezed his. "Then we survive," she said simply. And in the cold, silver light of dawn, the forest seemed to exhale. Shadows lingered, whispers echoed, and the alpha leader, wounded but alive, realized that his fate and his heart were now entwined with a small, fearless girl who had dared to climb the cliffs of danger to save him. But the forest was not done with them. The shadows waited, the whispers lingered, and a curse older than the mountains themselves had only begun to stir. The forest had grown silent after the first light of dawn, as if it were holding its breath. The alpha leader and the little girl sat on the cliff edge, looking down into the mist-shrouded valley. Every tree, every shadow, seemed alive with secrets. Even in his weakened state, the alpha felt the pull of the forest's ancient magic. He could feel it in the air, like a heartbeat under his skin, constant and insistent. The girl looked at him, eyes wide and thoughtful. "You are strong," she said softly. "But this forest, it is older than anyone, and it does not forget." The alpha's gaze hardened, amber eyes piercing the mist below. "I have survived every forest, every enemy, every betrayal. What makes this one different?"
The girl hesitated. "Because it is not just the forest."
Desperate. "I've bound a desk, and it is bound to you." He frowned, not fully understanding, but instinctively sensing the weight of her words. He wanted to rise, to claim control, but weakness still tethered him to the earth. The girl moved closer, brushing a lock of hair from her face, and he noticed something strange. A faint glow in her eyes. "It was not the sun's reflection nor the moon's. It was something else." By the something powerful. "What are you?" he asked, voice low, filled with suspicion and awe. "I am not just a girl," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am connected to the forest. I can help you." "But I need you to trust me." The alpha's chest tightened. Pride warred with vulnerability, fear with a growing curiosity. Trust had always been foreign to him. Strength had always come from relying only on himself. Yet here was a child, small and fragile, who had saved his life without hesitation. And now she asked him to follow her into the unknown.
He began, then paused, swallowing the bitterness rising in his throat. "Fine."
Brasp. "I will trust you. For now." The girl nodded, relief softening her features. "Good. And we must move. There is a place in this forest, a sanctuary. There, you can regain your strength, and I can explain the curse that binds you. They descended the cliff slowly, the forest growing thicker and darker as they moved. Shadows stretched unnaturally, and the wind whispered through the leaves like voices half heard and half remembered. The alpha's instincts were on high alert. Every rustle of branches, every distant cry of an animal made his muscles tense. Yet he did not leave the girl's side. He realized with a startling clarity that her presence was a shield against more than just danger. It anchored him, reminded him of something he had long forgotten: the fragility of life and the importance of others. The path was treacherous, and at one point, the alpha stumbled. The girl caught him by the arm. "Careful," she said. "If you fall now, the forest will claim you." He looked at her, a ghost of a smile touching his lips, patient. "And you? Why do you risk yourself for me?" She hesitated. "Because someone must, Bess. And because I feel as if our fates are tied together." Ha 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 ha. Psst. But he had always believed in strength, not destiny. But there was something undeniable in her presence, something that stirred a part of him long buried beneath years of battle and loneliness. Finally, they reached a clearing where the trees parted, revealing a small hidden sanctuary. Moonlight, or perhaps sunlight filtered through the mist, illuminated the place, and in the center stood a pool of crystal-clear water. The air here was warmer, almost comforting, as if the forest itself offered protection. The girl led him to the pool. "Est here," she said. "Drink." "Heal. I will tell you the truth." The alpha obeyed, though hesitantly. He knelt beside the water, cupping it in his hands. As he drank, he could feel the warmth spreading through his body, mending wounds, easing pain, soothing fatigue. The forest's magic channeled through her was stronger than anything he had ever encountered. The girl sat beside him, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "The curse," she began, "is older than your clan." It was cast by the first queen of the wolves, a woman who loved her people too much and feared betrayal more. She bound the leaders of your clan to a promise: strength in exchange for suffering, protection in exchange for loss. Every alpha must endure it. Every betrayal you have faced, it is part of the curse. Every enemy, part of the chain. Payers. The alpha's brow furrowed. He had heard whispers of such things. Legends told in firelight by elders. But he had never believed them. And yet, sitting here wounded, saved by a child whose eyes shone with unearthly light, the truth felt impossible to deny. "So, I am not just a victim of attack," he said slowly. "I am bound by this curse?" "Yes," she replied, eyes steady on his. "And you must learn to face it. But you cannot do it alone. That is why I came." He swallowed hard, the weight of her words pressing down on him. Pride and fear warred within his chest. To accept the curse was to accept vulnerability, weakness, mortality. And yet, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, with her help, he could survive. Perhaps he could even end the suffering that had haunted his family for generations. The girl's voice broke his thoughts. "There is more," she said, hesitating. "I am connected to the curse too. My family, my ancestors, were part of the magic that bound your clan. That is why I can help you. That is why I was drawn to you. Pest. The Alpha's eyes narrowed.
You? You are part of this curse? Yes, she admitted.
But I do not wish to harm you. I only wish to help you break it. Her words were simple, yet they carried weight beyond measure. He had fought many battles, faced countless enemies, yet never had he met someone so small, so unassuming, whose presence could challenge the destiny of an alpha. A silence fell between them. The forest whispered around them, leaves brushing against each other in a sound like murmured secrets. The alpha's gaze softened as he looked at her. For the first time in decades, he felt not anger, not suspicion, but something else, something tender, fragile, and unexpected.
You are brave, he said quietly.
Braver than I have ever seen. The girl's cheeks flushed slightly, but she did not turn away. I have to be. There is too much at stake. Your life, my life, the lives of many others. The curse is not just ours. It affects everyone. The Alpha nodded slowly. Then we fight it. Together. Her hand reached for his, small but determined, and he allowed it. The touch was brief, yet it carried more meaning than words could express. Trust, hope, and an unspoken promise lingered in that connection, stronger than any spell or curse. Suddenly the air shifted. A cold wind blew through the clearing, extinguishing the warmth the sanctuary had offered. Shadows deepened around them, and the forest seemed to lean closer, watching. The girl tensed, her small frame rigid. The spirits, they are near, she whispered. The Alpha's claws flexed, his instincts flaring. I will not fall again. The forest answered with silence, but the sense of danger remained. Something ancient and powerful stirred in the shadows, testing them, observing them. The girl squeezed his hand again, drawing strength from the bond they had forged. You will need more than strength, she said softly. That you will need to face your past, your sins, your losses. The curse feeds on those things. The Alpha's eyes darkened. Memories of betrayal, of friends lost and enemies slain, flashed before him. He had always believed in strength, in dominance, in survival, but he had never considered that redemption, understanding, and connection could be weapons as powerful as any blade or claw. A distant howl echoed through the forest, long and mournful. The girl flinched, but the Alpha's gaze sharpened. That is a warning, he said, voice low. But we are not alone. Not anymore. The girl nodded. Together, she whispered. For hours they sat by the pool, letting the forest's magic heal their bodies and souls. She told him stories of her ancestors, of the magic that had bound the wolves, of the choices that had led to the curse. He listened, absorbing each word, understanding that survival alone was not enough. To break the chains of the past, he would need courage, wisdom, and the willingness to trust someone else. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light through the mist, a shadow fell across the clearing. The Alpha tensed immediately, claws extending, teeth bared. But it was not an enemy. It was a wolf of unusual size, its eyes glowing with an inner fire. You have begun the journey, it said, voice deep and resonant, as if the earth itself spoke. But beware, the curse is patient, and those who seek to break it often pay more than they can bear. We will be ready, she said. The Alpha looked down at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "Yes," he said, "together we will face it all." And in the heart of the forest, where shadows whispered and the wind carried secrets of the past, the Alpha leader and the little girl prepared for the trials to come. The curse was far from broken, but for the first time hope glimmered in the darkness. The forest waited, ancient and patient. And the bond between the Alpha and the girl, fragile yet unyielding, had only begun. The Alpha leader's body had healed in the hidden sanctuary, though his spirit remained weighed down by the memories of betrayal and the curse that clung to his blood. The little girl sat beside him on the cliff that overlooked the misty valley, her small hand resting lightly on his arm. The forest around them hummed with life, but a quiet tension lingered. The trees whispered secrets of the past, and shadows stretched unnaturally, as if anticipating what was to come. "You are stronger now," she said softly, her voice carrying a quiet determination. "But the forest will not let you leave without a challenge, and neither will the curse." The Alpha's amber eyes scanned the horizon, the muscles in his jaw tense. "I have faced battles before," he said. "I have faced enemies who sought to destroy me." 2 seconds. "I am not afraid of this forest or the curse. Not anymore." The girl's gaze met his, steady and unwavering. "It is not fear you need to worry about," she said. "Desperas. It is yourself. The curse feeds on anger, pride, and regret. Best, it will use what you hate most against you."
He looked away, staring into the misty valley below.
Memories rose unbidden. Friends lost to treachery, enemies slain in anger, and moments when pride had blinded him to danger. He clenched his fists, trying to push the memories down, but the girl's words lingered. "Bah." She was right. Strength alone would not be enough. "We must move," she said, rising to her feet. "The sanctuary is safe for now, but the curse grows stronger every day."
There are others who will try to claim you, or stop you from breaking it.
Still, the Alpha stood, feeling the familiar weight of leadership settle on his shoulders. Despite his wounds, despite the fear and the memories, he felt a renewed determination. He had survived betrayal once. He would survive again. But this time, he would not do it alone. They descended from the cliff, moving carefully through the dense forest. The shadows seemed to twist and shift as they passed, and the wind carried whispers that chilled the blood. Yet the girl's hand in his provided a strange warmth, a tether to the world of light amid the darkness. As they moved deeper, they came to a ruined castle perched on a jagged hill, its walls cracked and overgrown with ivy. The wind howled through broken windows, carrying the faint echoes of a time long past.
The girl paused at the edge of the courtyard.
"This is where the trials begin," she said. "You must face the remnants of your past here, Alpha." "The curse will test you, and your enemies will appear." The Alpha's claws flexed, instincts alert. "Then we do not wait. We face them now." They entered the castle, the floorboards creaking under their weight. Shadows pooled in the corners, and the air was thick with the scent of decay and old magic. The girl led him through corridors lined with broken tapestries, their colors faded, their images of long-forgotten kings and queens staring down at them. Suddenly the shadows coalesced into forms, figures that resembled those the Alpha had known and lost. Friends who had betrayed him, enemies he had slain, and even faces of innocence whose deaths haunted him. Each figure stepped forward silently, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Face them," the girl whispered. "You cannot break the curse by running." The Alpha took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling steadily. He stepped forward, claws extended, eyes locked on the first shadow, a figure of his closest friend, who had turned against him years ago. The ghostly friend raised a hand, and a wave of sorrow and anger washed over the Alpha, memories of betrayal stabbing at his heart. "You failed," the figure said, voice echoing through the halls. "You left us behind. You chose power over loyalty." The Alpha's growl reverberated through the chamber. "I did what I had to," he said, voice low and steady. "I survived so that others could survive." The shadow lunged, but the Alpha moved with precision, deflecting the attack with his claws. The fight was not just physical, it was emotional. Every strike, every dodge was a battle against regret, anger, and guilt. The girl watched, her eyes glowing faintly as she whispered an incantation, lending him strength and clarity. One by one, the shadows tested him. A sister lost to a rival clan, a mentor who had warned him of betrayal, and even himself, younger and unscarred, but full of arrogance and pride. Each confrontation left him exhausted, but with every victory, a piece of the curse weakened. The final shadow emerged in the center of the great hall, a wolf king, larger and more fearsome than any Alpha he had ever faced. Its eyes burned with an icy light, and its voice was like the grinding of stone. "You seek to break the curse," it said. "But do you understand what it demands?" "Every choice has a cost. Every act of defiance feeds the darkness. Can you endure what comes next?" The Alpha stepped forward, claws gleaming. "I endure," he said. I face it all. I will not let the curse rule me, or the forest. I will survive, and I will protect those I care about." The Wolf King circled him slowly, its massive form filling the hall with shadow. The girl stood behind him, small but fearless, her hands raised as she murmured a chant. Light glowed from her eyes, forming a barrier of energy that intertwined with the Alpha's strength. "Together," the girl said, "we can end this. But you must trust me completely." The Alpha hesitated, pride warring with the knowledge that he could not win alone. Then he nodded, a silent agreement, and let the girl's power flow through him. The Wolf King lunged, but the Alpha met it head-on, claws and magic colliding with force that shook the walls. The battle raged, shadows twisting and writhing around them. The Alpha's body ached. His mind screamed with the weight of memories and guilt, but he pushed forward before. Faced betrayal, and faced enemies more powerful than this. And now he faced himself, fully and without compromise. Finally, the Wolf King paused, its glowing eyes meeting his. For the first time, there was no anger, only recognition.
"You have strength," it said, voice low and resonant. "But true power comes from more than claws and pride."
It comes from understanding, from connection, from trust. You have learned it well. The Wolf King slowly faded into shadow, leaving the Alpha and the girl standing in the center of the great hall. The air was still, the darkness receding, and the first rays of sunlight pierced through the broken windows, illuminating the room. The girl exhaled, her small body trembling from exertion. "You did it," she whispered. "You faced the curse, and you endured." The Alpha sank to his knees, exhaustion weighing him down. Hasp. He looked at her, eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper, an emotion he had not felt in years. "I could not have done it without you," he admitted, his voice low but sincere. She smiled faintly, brushing a lock of hair from his face. "We did it together," she said, "and there is more to come. The curse is weakened, but it is not gone. There are still forces that will try to stop you, or use you. The Alpha nodded slowly, understanding the truth in her words. He had regained strength, faced shadows, and learned the value of trust and connection. But the path ahead was still dangerous, and the bond he shared with the girl was only beginning to grow. As they prepared to leave the ruined castle, a distant howl echoed through the valley, long and mournful. The girl's hand tightened on his arm. "Desk, it is a warning," she said softly. "Others will come. A curse will not forgive so easily." The Alpha's gaze hardened, amber eyes gleaming with determination. "Let them come," he said. "We face them together." And as they stepped into the misty forest side by side, the shadows seemed to watch with interest. The Alpha leader, once alone and betrayed, now had an ally, a guide, and perhaps something even more precious, a bond that could withstand the darkness and the curse. The forest whispered around them, leaves brushing like fingers of the past, reminding them that trials were never truly over.
But the Alpha had faced his shadows, and for the first time he felt the spark of hope and the faint, dangerous warmth of trust and longing.
The girl looked up at him, small and brave, her eyes shining with determination. "Together," she whispered again. "Yes," the Alpha agreed, a faint smile touching his lips. "Together we will endure. And we will change what the curse has written." The mist swirled around them, carrying whispers of secrets yet to be revealed. The forest was alive, ancient and patient, and the journey was far from over. But for now, the Alpha leader had found something stronger than survival. He had found a reason to fight, a reason to trust, and a reason to believe that even in the darkest shadows, light could be found. And in the heart of the forest, where danger and destiny intertwined, the bond between the Alpha and the little girl grew stronger, ready to face whatever trials the world, or the curse, would throw at them next. The sun was low in the sky, casting golden streaks across the ruined castle that had become both a battlefield and a sanctuary. The Alpha leader and the little girl stood on the highest tower, gazing out over the mist-shrouded valley. The forest below whispered with the remnants of shadows, and the wind carried the weight of an ancient power that still lingered. The curse, though weakened by their courage, had not yet been broken. The Alpha's amber eyes scanned the horizon, alert to every movement. "The Dark Queen will come," he said quietly, voice low and steady. "She is the source of the curse, and she will not forgive our defiance."
The girl nodded, small hands clenched at her sides. "I know," she whispered.
"But we are ready. Together we can face her." For the first time, the Alpha allowed himself to feel the weight of hope. It was fragile, like the first bloom of spring after a harsh winter. But it was there. His strength was no longer just physical. It was tied to trust, to connection, and to the small girl who had climbed cliffs and braved shadows to save him. They descended the tower slowly, moving through the halls that had once echoed with darkness. The air seemed alive, humming with energy. Every broken stone, every crack in the walls, seemed to whisper warnings of what was to come. As they reached the central courtyard, the shadows began to coalesce. The Dark Queen emerged from the mist, tall and regal, her presence commanding and cold. Her eyes glowed with an inner fire, and the air around her shimmered with ancient magic.
"You dare challenge me," she said, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "You, a wounded Alpha, and a child who thinks she can wield powers she barely understands?"
The Alpha stepped forward, claws extended, but the girl placed a hand on his arm. "Wait," she said. "We must face her not with rage, but with understanding. That is what will break the curse." The Alpha hesitated, pride warring with reason. But he trusted her. He had learned that strength alone would not save them. Connection, trust, and courage were their true weapons. The Dark Queen's eyes narrowed. "You cannot escape the curse," she said.
Every act of defiance only feeds it. You are mine to command.
The girl stepped forward, small but fearless. "No," she said. "The curse is not yours to hold. It belongs to the forest, to those who live in it, and to those who are brave enough to break it."
"You cannot control what you do not understand." The Dark Queen laughed, a sound like cracking ice.
"And what makes you think you can stop me?" The Alpha's voice rang out strong and steady. "Because we fight together."
Because we face the truth of our past, and because we will not let fear rule us. The battle began not with swords or claws, but with a clash of wills and magic. The Dark Queen sent waves of shadow and fire, testing their courage, probing their fears. The Alpha dodged and countered, his strength now tempered by trust. The girl moved beside him, her small hands glowing with light as she channeled her ancestors' magic. Every strike, every movement was a dance of shadows. The Alpha faced visions of his past, betrayal, loss, regret. But this time, he did not falter.
"Hey!"
He accepted the memories, learned from them, and let the girl's presence anchor him. Together they became a force neither shadow nor curse could easily break. The Dark Queen's power surged, a storm of darkness that threatened to consume everything. But the girl's light met it, a pure and steady glow that intertwined with the Alpha's strength. "Focus on what matters," she whispered. "Not fear, not anger, but hope." The Alpha nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. Bah. He thought of the girl, of the trust they had built, of the forest that had protected them, and of all the lives that depended on them. His claws struck the shadows with renewed purpose, his voice a roar that shook the stones. The Dark Queen faltered. Her eyes widened in disbelief as the Alpha and the girl's combined power pushed back the darkness. "Impossible," she hissed. "No mortal and child should have this strength."
It is not strength alone, the Alpha said, voice steady and commanding.
"Is trust, connection, and courage." "You underestimated us because you do not understand the power of hope." The girl reached out, placing her hand on the Alpha's chest. Light flowed from her, spreading into him, into the castle, and into the surrounding forest. The shadows screamed and twisted, but they could not withstand the bond between the Alpha and the girl. With a final roar, the Alpha struck, sending the Dark Queen staggering. The forest seemed to rise around them, wind howling and leaves swirling in a vortex of energy. The curse that had haunted the Alpha's clan for generations began to unravel, threads of shadow dissolving in the light. The Dark Queen's voice wavered, filled with fury and fear. "This cannot be. Broken." "Yes," the Alpha said, stepping forward, claws still extended but his tone calm. "It can, and it will. 'Cause we will not bow to fear. We will not bow to darkness. We will choose life, trust, and hope."
The girl's eyes shone brightly, her small figure radiating power and courage.
She placed her hands together, focusing all her energy on the curse. The Dark Queen screamed as the last threads of her control shattered, vanishing into the wind. Silence fell. The air was still, the shadows gone, and the forest seemed to breathe again. Light filtered through the mist, illuminating the ruins in a soft golden glow. The Alpha leader stood, exhausted but unbroken. The little girl smiled, small but radiant, her eyes shimmering with relief and triumph. "You did it," she whispered. "The curse! It is gone!" The Alpha looked at her, his amber eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude, wonder, and something deeper, something he had not felt in years. "We did it together," he said, voice low and steady. "I could not have done this without you." She shook her head gently. "You had the courage." "I only guided it. You faced your past, your fears, and your own heart. That is why it is broken." For a long moment they stood in silence, the wind carrying the scent of the forest and the first hints of spring. The Alpha felt a lightness he had not known for decades, as if a weight he had carried all his life had been lifted. The girl's hand brushed against his, a simple gesture that carried more meaning than words could express. "Thank you," he said quietly, voice almost a whisper. "For everything?" She smiled faintly. "No."
You showed me what courage really is, what hope can do.
Pair. The Alpha's heart, long hardened by battles and betrayal, felt something new. Tenderness, connection, and a quiet, deep respect that bordered on something more. A bond that had been forged in darkness and tempered in light. They descended from the tower, walking through the forest that had both tested and protected them. The trees seemed to sway in acknowledgement, leaves brushing against each other like whispers of approval. The shadows were gone, but the memory of their trials lingered, a reminder of the strength they had discovered in each other. As night fell, stars appearing in the velvet sky, the Alpha leader and the little girl reached the edge of the forest. The valley below glowed with the soft light of fireflies, and the ruins of the castle stood quiet, no longer a place of fear, but a testament to endurance and courage. The Alpha knelt beside the girl, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The curse is gone," he said softly. "But our journey is not over. There will always be challenges, always shadows. But we face them together." She nodded, her small hand resting on his. "Together," she echoed. For the first time in his long life, the Alpha allowed himself to hope, not just for survival, but for life, for connection, and for a future where he was not alone. The forest around them seemed to hum in quiet celebration, ancient magic settling into peace. The little girl looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Do you think the forest will ever forget us?" she asked. The Alpha smiled faintly.
"No," he said. "It will remember courage."
"Best. It will remember hope. And it will remember that even in the darkest night, light can shine, if you are brave enough to hold it." She smiled back, and for a moment the weight of the past, the curse, and the battles seemed to fall away. They stood side by side, shadows of the past behind them, light stretching before them, and a bond that neither curse nor darkness could break. The Alpha leader, once betrayed and left for dead, had survived, braced connection, and discovered a strength greater than claws or pride. And the little girl, brave and unwavering, had proven that even the smallest hand could guide the strongest heart through darkness. The forest whispered around them, gentle and protective. The wind carried the scent of life and renewal. And as dawn broke fully over the valley, the Alpha and the girl walked forward together, ready to face whatever the world might bring. Because they had learned the greatest truth of all, courage, trust, and hope were stronger than any curse, and the bonds forged in darkness could light the path to redemption, and somewhere in the distance a lone wolf howled, not as a warning, but as a celebration. The Alpha's eyes softened, and he squeezed the little girl's hand. Together they had survived the shadows, and together they would shape the dawn.